Hello everyone, this is Preheat. So I wanted to make a quick video kind of explaining this awesome new information that we just got from Blizzard. If you aren't already aware, basically Blizzard is dropping a whole lot of information about 10.1, and they basically just came out with just like a barrage of info, right? But I want to specifically talk about how the item level crafting and upgrading system is going to work in the next patch, because we're not having the same upgrades that we have normally. In fact, Valor is actually gone in 10.1, and it's replaced with a new system that's kind of like a merge between crafting system we have right now when it comes to like crafting profession gear with sparks and what Valor used to be. And I just want to say, like, based on my first impressions of the system, it looks to be very, very good. Obviously, I don't know everything about this yet, but I have written down a lot of information here. Also, Wowhead has a fantastic write-up where they talk about this and kind of give you a summary. If you haven't already checked out this write-up, I definitely recommend you go look there, but I'm going to give you the TLDR of what I've kind of figured out so far and what this actually means for how we're going to craft items in the next patch. Okay, so obviously, you know, a lot of information here in the write-up. I'm not going to repeat this verbatim. You can just read this on your own if you want. I'm going to give you the cliff notes. So basically, you are going to get gear. It's going to drop from, you know, world quests. It's going to drop from raids, Mythic Plus, right? It will not work for PvP gear, but for everything else, basically, you get an item and it's going to drop with a certain upgrade level to it. Okay, that's what these are right here: Explorer, Adventurer, Veteran, Champion, and Hero. Okay, and what this means is that the item has kind of like a cap to it. Okay, so if you get an item that drops, and let's say it's like 389, right? That's going to be Adventurer 1 of 8. So if you want to upgrade this item can go all the way up to 411 potentially. And then that's going to be where the item kind of lives for the rest of its life. It will not be able to go past this level. So what this means is basically that everything that you get in the world is actually going to be useful, at least early on. And then as time goes on, you know, there's going to be items that you probably chase, right? Obviously, there's always trinkets that we want. New dungeons have a lot of really good trinkets too. They just released a Mythic Plus list of dungeons there. So we're going to have stuff like Iridus Fragment, obviously very strong trinket. Also the Talon trinket from Oldman is also going to be very, very good. And then stuff from World Quest could also be good too. Okay, so when it comes to currency, there's basically two different main kinds of currency, and it kind of corresponds with what we have now. So I'm going to draw a parallel here. Basically, Flightstones are going to be kind of like Primal Chaos. They're not exactly like it, but they're very similar. They drop from, you know, looting dirt piles out in the world. They drop from, you know, if someone gets score in the Mythic Plus run, right? If you kill a raid boss, you're just going to be constantly getting Flightstones. There's no cap on how many you can get a week. You can just farm these endlessly, just like Primal Chaos, and you get it from anything and everything, right? Everything drops this. And then you've got another currency that's actually capped. So each one of these different categories has a cap of 10 per week. And if you don't reach the 10 in that week, it's going to roll over into the next week. So basically, if you do nothing on the character and then it's 2 weeks in, you would be able to get 20, right? Think of this as Primal Focus. It's very similar to Primal Focus. Instead of having 2 though, you've got 4 different categories. So I'm going to make some assumptions here, but I believe that all 4 of these are going to be dropping from raid. I think Whelpling is going to be from LFR, Drake is going to be from normal raid, Worm is going to be from heroic, and Aspect is going to be from mythic, if I had to guess. Remember, you can only get 10 of these per week, but you can get 10 of each, right? So if you get 10 Whelplings, you're not done for the week. You can still collect all of the rest of them. Also, these are going to be dropping from Mythic Plus as well. I don't know the exact keystone levels, but if I had to guess, it's probably going to be like, you know, up to level 8. Keystone level 8 is probably going to be Whelpling, and then above that's going to be Drake, Worm, and Aspect. It's just going to correspond most likely to the item level that the raid loot drops at, okay? So just to get an idea, this isn't confirmed, but I suspect that Mythic Raid is going to be dropping gear at around 450 or 454, somewhere in that range is like the highest tier of gear. We could see something different. They haven't exactly confirmed exactly what it's dropping at, but they've kind of alluded to it, and they've also included it here in this chart with Mythic. So I'm going to assume 450 is the max. And then everything else here obviously falls below it. Now, the reason why you notice here it says just Mythic and then you've got NAs for the rest of this, not availables, is because obviously you can't be upgrading pieces from Mythic gear. Like the highest tier loot that you can get is not going to be able to be upgraded if it is, you know, above item level, let's say, you know, 441. That's basically 441 is the highest item level you'll be able to reach with this gear, and it would be with hero gear, right? So if you get a piece that's at 428, you can upgrade that up to 441, and that is it. You can't go any higher, right? So obviously it's still going to be a big incentive to go do raid, because you're going to be able to get the best loot from raid, and that's how it's historically been, and that's how it will continue to be. But this will make it very easy to catch up with raid item level gear, because you won't be that far off, right? Like you're only 9 item levels lower. If you're in full hero gear, obviously You can have trinkets and stuff that might even be better than raid trinkets, right, from the dungeons and such. So this is also going to be huge. Also, I'm assuming that gear from your vault, if it's like the maxed out loot, you could think of this as like the 421 equivalent, is probably also not going to be able to be upgraded as well. This will not work on crafted gear either, but I mean, we're basically, you know, allowing all the gear in the game aside from PvP gear, crafted gear, and like the highest tier gear from Mythic Raid and Vault drops to work. So it's pretty much everything else. Okay, so one thing that's really cool about the system, probably my favorite thing about it, you get a discount for items. It says here, basically, if you've already had an item that is at that tier, right? So like, let's say for example, I have a helmet and my helmet is like 428, right? And I want to upgrade a helmet that I just got. Let's say that the item I just got to drop was like 415 or something like that. I could upgrade it all the way up to 428 without costing a single crest, right? So that is the currency that's capped for the week. I wouldn't have to spend any of that currency whatsoever. The only thing I'd have to spend is Flightstones, and I get a 50% discount on that Flightstone cost as well. So basically, Flightstones, the infinitely farmable currency that we're talking about, you're able to spend that, you'll get a huge discount on it, 50%, and you won't have to use any crests. This is very important because it means that the upgrades are not wasted. So if you have an item that's Explorer, right, and you can only take that item all the way up to 398, okay, on a fresh halt, let's say. Taking the item all the way up to 398 is not a bad idea because if you get a piece later on that, let's say it drops at Adventure, right, you can take that item up to 411, but you're not going to have to pay for these 4 levels right here when it comes to your crest because you've already had this item level on this crest, right? So basically, you're not going to have to redo progress using your currency that's finite, that you can only have a certain amount per week, right? You don't have to spend that again. The only thing you'd be spending is the expendable, infinitely farmable Flightstones, which are akin to Primal Chaos. So this means that not only on your main character, but also on your alts, you're going to be spending a lot less currency and you're going to have to play a lot less to be able to get up to speed. This is a fantastic catch-up mechanic because it basically means that you can have as many alts as you want and you get huge discounts for having this, right? So like having a character that's very, very geared on your account is going to be huge for you because it basically means that you just get insane discounts on all your alts, right? And this also will not work the other way around, right? So whenever I was first reading this, I got really worried because I was thinking about like Lost Ark, if you've ever played that MMO. You know, there's basically like a meta in Lost Ark where you want to have like as many alts as possible to kind of feed and siphon gear to your main. It's not going to work the other way around, so don't worry, you're not going to have a ton of alts for that reason. You may want a ton of alts for other reasons, right? But at least you won't have to have a ton of alts to be able to like game the system to get higher item level here. But yeah, so basically we've got 4 different kinds, right? Whelpling is going to be used for Adventure and Veteran. Drake is going to be used for Champion and Veteran. Worm is going to be used for Hero and Champion. And Aspect is going to be used for just Hero, really, just this last level. Just to kind of explain this, it's all like here on the website if you want to look, if you just scroll down here. But basically, it says items crafted at this level will always have this upgrade level, and then this one is the upgrade side, right? So this is the indicator of like where the item drops initially whenever you first get it, and then this side is going to be for where you actually have the item upgraded, right? So if the item is created at the item level, the corresponding rarity is right here, or like tier that it's in. And obviously this side is the upgrade. So you can see there is overlap, right? Like if you get an Explorer item, you can take it all the way up to Explorer 8, which is equivalent to an Adventurer 4 item that drops naturally. This is actually really nice because it means there is an incentive to farm the gear still. This is not a replacement for getting gear. It's not like, you know, how the infusions were where you can just like craft a bunch of gear without actually doing any content like you can right now. You actually have to go out and get the gear to drop in the first place. And then once you have the gear drop, then you can start upgrading it, right? And obviously you have a cap on how high you can upgrade it. So you will have to do harder content to be able to get the better gear, right? You won't be able to just do world quests and then take your item level all the way up to 441. That's not how it works. You have to at least do content that's going to be dropping item level 428 gear in order to reach 441, right? You're hard stuck on that. However, you could have 415 gear, right? Like you could get a piece of 415 gear, very easy to get on the alt, right? If you're doing content that isn't quite the hardest content, and then you can take that all the way up to 437. So this is actually insanely huge because it means that you don't have to do all the crazy content that you do on your main to be able to catch up to your main on your alts. And because you're getting that huge discount, right? Because you're getting the 50% discount on the Flightstones and you don't have to spend any crests, you'll be able to get farmed up in a jiffy if you want to really spend some time playing that character. I really like this system. I'm really happy with it. I do think that having the 10 cap is probably just right, but we'll have to see it obviously in action. As time goes on, you're not going to need a lot of these, right? Like if you're doing mostly content that's mythic high end, right? You're doing like 20 keys, you're doing mythic raid. Very quickly, you're going to have no use for Drake Crest and Whelpling Crest. You can just vendor those, right? You won't need to be worrying about them. And then on your alt, you don't even need to worry about them at all, right? Because on your alt, all you'll need is Flightstones to be able to catch right back up, okay? Obviously, there are some exceptions, though, to the catch-up mechanics. So they talked about it a little bit, but basically, if you have rings, you're going to have your second ring be that tier. For trinkets, it's also your second trinket. For one-handers, same idea. It's your second one-hander. So obviously, you can't game the system with just one of those items. So in one of the interviews I saw, I don't remember exactly where it was, but someone asked basically if you have an item that's tradable, if this is going to work. No, it has to be soulbound. So like if you get an item from raid and you trade it to a rogue, right? Let's say it's a bow or something like that. It's not going to make the rogue able to make higher daggers, right? It has to be actually equipable, has to be usable, and it has to be soulbound on them. So, you know, it will have to go to the person who's actually getting the upgrade, but then that person who gets the upgrade is able to then, you know, bring their other items up to that tier if they find something else. So what that means is, let's say you have your best trinket from your dungeon, right? Let's say it's like Feather this tier, but instead it's next tier, so it's probably like Iridus Fragment, okay? And a raid trinket drops and it's just garbage for everyone. It's terrible, right? You could take that trinket, and if you have that item level for that trinket, then you can bring another trinket up to that item level just as long as it falls within that category, right? So if you get a 415 best in slot Iridus Fragment and you have the trinket from raid, you should be able to take it all the way up to 437 here without having to spend a single crest, so long as you have two trinkets, right? You'll have to have both slots. But obviously, you know, in this case, I'm assuming you already have one good trinket. If you have both of those slots then at that tier, right, where you can unlock the 437, then now you can bring it up to that level. All you'd have to do is pay for Flightstones. So this kind of does allow you to almost skip a couple steps if there's a trinket that you really want. And this is so great because, like, right now, if I wanted to get a Rage Feather, and I don't have a Rage Feather, and I ran a bunch of Mythic +2 Nakuds, right? And I'm just going in there, just doing the dungeon over and over and over and over and over again, I would have to spend a ton of Valor to be able to upgrade that item all the way up. In this system, you'll still have to pay a lot of Flightstones, but you won't have to pay any Crests. And obviously, you're going to be getting a pretty hefty discount on the Flightstones as well. So what I think this is going to do is it's going to make this currency, even though you can infinitely farm it, Flightstones, I think it's going to make it a very solid after currency. We don't know exactly how much you're going to get from what, but it does seem like you're going to be getting it from pretty much everything. So if you're playing the game a lot, especially on your alts, you're going to be enjoying a lot of item level and you're going to have pretty good gear. So basically, it matches the reward with the effort put in, which is why I really love the vision for the system. And the fact that it's replacing Valor kind of makes sense, right? Because Valor doesn't really fit with this. I feel like this is just, you know, it makes sense for this to be a replacement for Valor. Once again, to recap the system, basically two different new kinds of currency, right? You got a Primal Chaos equivalent, which is Flightstones. And then you have the Primal Focus equivalent that has 4 different types with Crests. Crests are used to upgrade an item if you have not already had that item at that item level, right? So it's like to push past your item level, you're using Crests. And then to catch up on your item level, you don't have to spend Crests, and that is account bound. It's not just for your character. It goes all the way for your entire account. And then for the actual items themselves, you don't need any sort of Mythic Plus score or anything like that to be able to upgrade them. You just need the items themselves, and you need to have a base item that falls within the range so that you can actually upgrade it to the level that you want it. Also, another thing about this is it looks like you're actually going to need an enchanter to be able to make the item that you use to set the item level of the item. It's called an Enchanted Shadowflame Crest, and I imagine this is going to make enchanting a very, very lucrative profession since it will never go out of style if you're always buying items. I recommend, if you don't already have a guild enchanter who is specialized and has a bunch of points spent in their profession, someone who plays the game a lot, you probably want to go find someone who is going to spend a lot of time who is going to be an enchanter. This is going to be extremely important for you to be able to, you know, get everything done in-house, unless you want to pay the cartel outrageous fees, right? Because they will probably cost you an arm and a leg, right? If you're buying these through the crafting order system. At least you can still buy them through the crafting order system, right? But it's probably going to be very, very expensive. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this system. Let me know what you think. If you want to see more of this content, be sure to subscribe to my channel as well and ring that notification bell. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a like, and hopefully I see you in the next one.